Hi, my name's Andy Freeman from Space to Breathe, and we want to do this video thinking about the change of seasons and the effect it has on our well-being. I wonder if you've felt a little bit different as we've gone from summer into autumn, as things change in the weather around us. Probably a majority of people that I work with would say this time of year becomes quite hard. And it kind of makes some sense. When the weather's like this, how do you feel? Only 5% of us, according to studies, feel happier in winter than we do at any other time. And there is a diagnosis of something, you may have heard of it, S.A.D or seasonal adjustment disorder, that about 5% of people in the UK are diagnosed with, but probably 20% more have milder forms. Interestingly, 47% of those who suffer with mental health challenges say winter makes it worse, and 16% of those think that Christmas has that effect. And changes in season often affect a number of things, our diet, our patterns of life. But interestingly, changes in season often affect our sleep. I wonder what the change in season does for you and how it affects you. This time of year brings a lot of different changes, and it's not necessarily that the weather's bad is the reason why you might be feeling a little bit lower, or you might be struggling a little bit more. And there'll be many of you watching this video and you'll be like, oh, I'm fine at this time of year. That's great. That's really, really good. And what's not happening here is me saying, well, everybody feels this way. But because a lot of people do, I thought it was an important video to make. One of the changes is light and dark. We get used to those lighter evenings, and as we get towards the clocks changing, things get darker at different times in the morning, maybe when you're going out, in the evening when you're coming back, or just during the day, it feels a little bit darker and gloomier. And that can affect us, because light has an effect on our mood, creates serotonin, affects the way we view the world, increases vitamin D, and all those kind of things make a difference. The darkness, we tend to stay in a bit more because of it, so it affects and changes the way we do things. Temperature also has that effect. As it gets colder, we may go out less, or we may, wrap up in a different way, or, there's different ways that we'll handle that change in temperature. Rhythms and routines begin to change as we do that. Things that we were doing before are different. We might go to sleep at different times, we might wake up at different times, we might do different things, we might have a different balance to our week. We might find days when we're not getting out as much, or when we are going out, the weather's different and we're dressing differently, doing different things in the evening or at weekends. And all of these things can affect our routines and then can affect us. We say that we've got 5 pillars of well-being at Space to Breathe: sleep, diet and exercise, but then also relationships and routines. And when routines get broken, that can affect things. And when we get into the holiday season at Christmas, you get to that weird thing where you don't quite know what the day of the week is. Many of us have different associations with this time of year. There may be things that have happened in winter periods that have affected us, and as we approach that season, we might subconsciously be aware of that. Or there might be particular resonances with this time of year and things that you've been through, or things that you remember, and those associations are worth recognising. The whole end of the year, the start of next year, as we get into October, I always feel like, okay, we're in the home stretch now. And you can have that feeling of almost, I wonder what this year's been like. And there's the hope for the new year. I remember my dad always used to read me a line from a Tennyson poem: hope stands on the threshold of the year to come, saying it will be happier. And there's that hope that we have, resolutions and fresh starts. Of course, it's just a calendar, but we have those things. But it can also lead us to feel a little bit negative about the present, and that can affect us a bit. And then there's the thing that a lot of things are different. So autumn brings a lot of colour, but as the leaves fall off the trees, things look a bit bare. We're losing a lot of flowers and colour. There's like a hiddenness to the world around us. And that can often make us struggle a little bit, because it feels different. You know, there's that wonderful feeling, at least I have, when you see spring bulbs popping up in the early part of the year and daffodils beginning to appear, and it makes a difference to me to see that colour and that vibrancy. So you end up with this feeling that everything's kind of changing, and that can affect us, and that's one of the things that seasonal adjustment disorder brings. Now often it focuses on the light bit, and you might have come across a light box to bring that natural kind of like light to your home when it's a bit darker, because we're missing the sunshine. But also a number of other things can happen at this kind of time of year. So if you've been struggling a little bit, firstly, be aware of that. Notice that. My favourite quotes, Carl Rogers: the paradox is the moment we accept ourselves exactly where we are, then we can change. So if that's happening, self-acceptance is the start. I accept that that's had an effect on me. Now what are we going to do about it? I want to suggest 3 approaches that can help you with these different things that are changing. Approach number 1 is reframing. Now what is reframing? It's actually a Buddhist idea, but it's basically about finding something positive in something that's challenging or negative. So imagine I'm going for a job interview and I'm worried about what people will think me. If I reframe that, I think, well, what's the opportunity that it was presented? I might get the job. It might be a change in my life. It might be a positive step forward. So reframing reframes from negative to positive. So think about those things that we've just said, and think about the ways this season affects you. How might you reframe that? I'll give you a couple of suggestions. Firstly, the change from light to dark might make us really value the sunshine. On a sunny day, you might want to think, well, I'm going to take an hour and I'm going to go for a walk and get outside and make the most of this. When it is a sunny day, you might really appreciate that more. Or we might reframe the idea of, like the change in seasons by thinking about all the things that are happening under the ground. There's a hiddenness in this season where we can't see it, but growth is taking place, and the growth that will come in spring is happening now. Or reframing around the end of the year might make us think about all the good things that have happened this year, rather than try and almost dump the year off and get into the next one. So reframing takes something negative and makes it positive, and that's approach number 1 to this kind of element of change. We can reframe things. Second approach is adapting. This means when change happens, we adapt with it, and this is something that you learn from the natural world. Changes in seasons and changes in circumstances, you see animals and different elements of the natural world adapt and change with the changes that happen. How can you adapt to the things that are happening? The change in temperature, the weathers and seasons, the changes in your life. How can you adapt? I'm very struck that Scandinavian cultures and communities where there's a lot of darkness at winter embrace that with the idea of hygge, of coziness, of warmth. So you might adapt by really embracing the idea of blankets and comfy jumpers and heat in the house and twinkly lights, and embracing the colours of this time of year and adapting your pattern of life. So staying in a little bit more, what am I going to do with that time? And all those different things, you just learn to adapt with it. Now, adaptation requires the ability for you to see what you appreciated from the summer, let's say, And how can I adapt that appreciation into this new season? So it takes a little bit of time. It's saying, what do I value here, and how can I bring it here? Or with this new circumstance that I'm facing in autumn and then going into winter, how can I appreciate that in a different way? So it brings a bit of reframing in too, but we're adapting. So reframing, adapting. And the third idea is to mitigate. And what mitigation means is where there's something difficult happening, or when there's some sort of loss or something that we know is going to hit us hard, how can I prepare for that and mitigate or reduce its impact on me? So in terms of light, if you know that the darker times of year is going to affect the way that you feel, what could you do to bring that in? Could you invest in a light box? Could you make the opportunity that when it is a sunny day that you scratch out an hour of your time and you go and get outside, so you make the most of that? Could you think about why you appreciate light and bring light into your life in different ways through installing some new lights in your living room, buy some fairy lights, or whatever it might be, something that brings that to you. Or if you know that there's an association with this time of year, maybe there's a particular day or a particular memory that's coming back to you, that you might talk to some people about that, you might get some support, or you might think on that particular day I'm going to be around people rather than be on my own. You're mitigating the impact that it has on you. Now obviously some of us may well suffer from what is recognised as seasonal adjustment disorder, and if you feel that's you, go and talk to your doctor, and that's always your first point of view. Call your GP, is the gatekeeper for all the support that you can get, and there is support that you can get for that. But if you feel like this is a common theme, then I want to introduce you to an exercise now that I think can be really, really helpful. Take some time and a piece of paper to write down the things that you notice at this time of year that change, that affects you. And you should have a piece of paper that looks a little bit like this. And then right at the bottom, adapt, mitigate, and reframe. And then ask yourself with each of those things, how can I adapt? How can I mitigate those things? How can I reframe them? And write some notes around them so that you come up with a little bit of a well-being plan. The thing is that this time of year doesn't come as a surprise. I know sometimes it comes gradually, but on the whole we know this is coming. So how can we prepare? And this is a little bit of well-being planning that can help us prepare. So you'd end up with a sheet that looks like this, and then you work through and you try and implement these things. To go for a walk more often, to invest in a light box, whatever it might be. Have a think about that. Spend a little bit of time doing that now. If you want to, pause the video. We're going to finish with a breathing exercise that's just going to ask us, what do we need at this time of year, and what can I let go this time of year? So if you make yourself comfortable, and we've talked through a breathing exercise before, but if this is the first time you've done it, I always start by noticing all the physical aspects of my breathing, particularly the upward and downward motion in my rib cage. You might want to feel your chest as you breathe in and out, or maybe feel your abdomen, whatever feels appropriate to you. Just notice all those physical aspects, and just take some time to sit with that for a little while. And then as you're breathing in and out, I'd like you to notice your inward breath. And on each inward breath, just ask yourself the question, what do I need at this time of year? And imagine yourself, your lungs filling up with that. Maybe it's a sense of hope. Maybe it's a sense of purpose or lightness. Maybe it's comfort in terms of memories that you have at this time of year, or associations that you have at this time of year. Take some time to breathe in and out. And as you breathe in, think about, what do you need? What do you need? And then we'll do the same with the outward breath. But on the outward breath, we'll think, what can I let go of? What are the things that I can let go of at this time? Just together with me now, just do one exaggerated outward breath. Imagine yourself letting go of something. It could be, again, a memory or an association, or it could be something you're putting on yourself, or pressure that you're putting on yourself, or a sense of guilt or worry or shame. Just try and let that go as you breathe out each time. What can I let go of? Then a few deeper in and out breaths. What's around you. And we're going to finish there. I hope that's really helpful to you. Remember, if this isn't something that affects you, remember 5% of us do prefer this time of year, that's fine. But if this is something that you notice happens, or maybe you just, a little bit of a lower mood has just crept up on you, be aware of this and try out some of the different exercises and tasks that we've done today. If you're concerned at all about your well-being, go and have a chat with your GP. If you want to, you can contact Space to Breathe. Our details are under this video. But otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again really soon. Take care. Bye-bye.